perception of Germany as being, the big militarist power and the blah 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 blah, would probably be totally wrong. It's those little things of how history can change in relatively minor details. But, okay, so to move away from, it's to be the totally German-centric panel, England and Russia. There's a scene in episode 13 where England is basically beaten up one by Germany. He says, all right, well, I'm going to get revenge on you. And he uses his weird magical powers and stuff. And he's going to summon a demon. He's probably watched too much Fullmetal Alchemist. He makes an alchemy cycle and summons this demon. Begone, you damn kolkhoz. Again, so much of the best little history insight things come from these little offhand goofy comments. Kolkhoz. A kolkhoz, if you don't know, is the collective Soviet farms, where you take a whole bunch of peasants from different areas, shove them in on one farm and say, okay, here's what you're going to grow and here's what you're going to do. Stalin's forced collectivization of Soviet farmers early in the 1920s, the early history of the Soviet Union, caused horrible privations. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, about 5 million people starved to death because he did that. They had, all throughout the Ukraine, they had farmers who were loading up their grain onto trucks and trains at gunpoint. And they take all the grain away. And you got farmers who grew the grain who are going to watch their children starve to death because the government's taking it all away. Yeah. Oh! Well, that's not actually accurate because Stalin was okay with killing those 5 million people. For one thing, they were Ukrainians, and for another thing, he had a lot of prejudice against successful, wealthy farmers. He called them kulaks and said, you guys are counter-revolutionaries, I'll starve you all to death. Well, they were wealthy because they were productive. And since they're productive, they could feed lots of people. And you just killed them all, you dip.
So yeah, this is one little offhand remark, but a little bit further in that same exchange, we get the following. Oh yeah, this I forgot about this bit. Again, I referred to how some of these little fan arts and things are elaborating on these ideas. Just googling to see is there any reference on this. This is another deviant art where the Cyrillic in the background says in Russian, come join the kolkhoz. And of course that's Russia and Ukraine. Of course, given what we're just explaining, we're sort of pasting over the actual history here. But yeah. Britannia, Wales, Curse of the League. Now what is it? What's up with leagues? But the leek, he said Britannia, Wales, Curse of the Leek. The leek plant is to Wales basically like what the shamrock is to Ireland. According to Welsh lore, supposedly there was an ancient king Cadwaladr who ordered his troops into battle, into a fight against the Saxons, and ordered his troops to wear leeks to signify that they were his army.
This was before uniforms were invented.
Yes, very, very ancient past. So the leek has become sort of the symbol of Wales. This is memorialized in Shakespeare's famous play Henry V, which is about a much, much later battle after that one, in the 1400s, the Battle of Agincourt, where the English fought the French. And this is one of the battles of the 100 Years' War. And thanks to the glorious wonder weapon of the day, Welsh longbowmen, the English pretty much wiped out the whole French army with pretty minimal casualties. And in this scene, after the battle, Henry is talking to his chief Lieutenant Fluellen, who is reminding him of the fact that, your great-grandfather is Welsh and also fought a famous battle here in France.
Your grandfather of famous memory, and His Majesty? and your great uncle, Edward, the Black Prince of Wales, as I have read in the chronicles, fought a most brave battle here in France.
They did, Flora.
Your Majesty says very true. If your Majesty is remembered of it, the Welshman did good service in the garden where leeks did grow. Wearing leeks in a monmouth garden, as your Majesty knows, to this hour is an honourable badge in service. And I do believe your Majesty takes no scorn to wear the leek upon St. David's Day.
I wear it for a memorable honour. For I am Welsh, you know, good my countrymen.
Oh, I heard someone say manly romance.
Romance.
So now the other point, or other direction you can go from that little bit, the exchange between England and Russia there, where he talks about, yeah, Russia, do you have some kind of grudge? And Russia says, yes, I do. But of course, he doesn't really mean a grudge against England, but Russia does have a grudge against somebody.
In 1905, the Russian Empire was having a little bit of trouble with a bunch of revolutionaries and unhappy people. And the Russian war minister came up with this wonderful quote: "What we need is a short, victorious war to pull the country together and stem the rising tide of rebellion." Well, they did get a war, and it was short, and there was a victory. But 1905, the Russo-Japanese War. When that war started, Russia is the great military power, the biggest nation on earth. They stretch across 11 time zones. Their army beat Napoleon in the end. And they're this great military power. And Japan, it's a third world country. They're a bunch of nobodies, you know. No third world country has ever beaten a modern Western power, ever. But they had this little war, and Japan won every single battle. And when they took the Russian port, Port Arthur, they took the mountains around the port, put their cannons up there, shot down, and sank all of Russia's battleships in the Pacific. Before this happened, the Russians said, we need to reinforce our fleet. So we're going to take our fleet in the Baltic Sea and sail it to attack the Japanese Navy. And there's one problem. The Baltic Sea is near Finland and Europe. And, oh, my badge, thank you. And they won't let me into panels if I don't have this.
Oops.
And and basically they sailed the long way around the world. They sailed around Sweden and Denmark and France and England. And then they got to the English Channel where they sank a couple English fishing boats because they thought they were Japanese torpedoes.